Hi guys, this is a short tutorial regarding the particular grammar mistake of its and its. I can hear the groans coming through the internet connection right now at that word grammar. I appreciate the fact that grammar is often a very dry subject, particularly in relation to some of the more creative things that you can do with English, so I appreciate that. So I'm going to try and keep this presentation as short as possible. The reason, though, why I'm going to be banging on about grammar and its is because part of the mark scheme for question 5 writing tasks is called technical accuracy, which is marked out of 16, and that does include grammar. It can also include punctuation and spelling as well. But the examiner, when they read your question 5 responses, whether that be a letter or a speech or an article or a piece of descriptive writing or a story, will be going through your writing with a fine-tooth comb, because they have to, with a magnifying glass, and they will take marks off of you for small mistakes. They might not take a lot off you, but I have taught probably hundreds of students over the years who have been 1 or 2 marks off a particular grade boundary. Some of whom have got a grade 3 and they needed 2 marks to get a grade 4. So a little technical mistake, like a grammar mistake, would have possibly been the reason for that. So this presentation is designed to avoid that. The examiner wants to give you marks. They don't want to take marks away. I'm also an examiner. Examiners tend to be teachers, so they know how important it is for you to succeed. But unfortunately, because of the contract that they sign with their exam board, they have to take marks off if they spot a mistake, because it's about being fair. So if a student does something wrong, it would be unfair on the student that does something right to not penalise the student that did something wrong. It has to be fair. So this presentation is designed to make sure that its and its is used correctly. So the first type of its is the contraction, what's called a contraction, which is shown through the apostrophe. So that apostrophe in this example is replacing the I. So the full version of this word is it is, or alternatively it can mean it has. So the apostrophe is either replacing the I in it is, or it's replacing the HA in it has. So that's a contraction. That tends to be the simplest way to remember it. So an apostrophe often shows missing letters or an omission. That apostrophe, therefore, is showing some missing letters in this case as well. The second type of it, without the apostrophe, is slightly more complex because it's to do with subjects and objects in sentences. So I'm just going to try and explain this as simple as possible. So it, without the apostrophe, is a possessive pronoun, which means it's all to do with something that belongs to something else. So when we talk about people, we might say my book, or your car, or her car, or his pen, because we have a gender, because we have a person. But when we don't have a person, and when we just have an object that doesn't have a gender, it means that we tend to use it instead without the apostrophe. So it's still to do with belonging to something, but that something tends to not be a person. In a sentence, it's, without the apostrophe, tends to be followed by an object, and that object belongs to the subject. So the subject is the it, which changes. So the object belongs to the subject, and the subject is symbolised by it or its. Okay, so this is all to do with possession, and it's all to do with the object and the subject in a sentence. So if I give you some examples here, so remember that it is exactly the same as the subject. In other words, what the sentence is about. The object belongs to the subject. Okay, so you can see there in the table I have got 5 sentences, all of which have a subject and an object. Remember, the object belongs to the subject. So the tail belongs to the dog, the bonnet belongs to the car, the flag belongs to the country, the filling of the cake, or the filling belongs to the cake, and the skin belongs to the snake. So we have a subject which is what the sentence is about, and an object, which is what belongs to the subject. The its in those 5 sentences is referring to the subject. Okay, so when we say its tail, the its is the dog. The its with the bonnet example, the its is the car, and so on. So in those examples, the its is exactly the same as the subject, and it's the object that belongs to that subject. Okay. Another way of looking at it is to use the other example of it is. So we've got exactly the 5 same sentences, but we've changed the its. The dog is wagging its tail, now with the apostrophe. What that actually means, the dog is wagging its tail, or the car has a scratch on its bonnet. Every country has its own flag. The cake has jam as it is filling. Or the snake sheds it has skin, the shake sheds it is skin. Clearly, none of them make sense. But unsuspecting students will use the apostrophe version of it every single time. And what they fail to realise is that actually they are not making sense in terms of grammar, and that will take marks off of them. So the easiest thing to do is to ask yourself, do I want to say it is, it has, or not? That is always the question that you have to ask yourself when you are proofreading your question 5 responses. Do I want to say it's, as in it is or it has, or not? If the answer is yes, you do want to say it is or it has, then you need the apostrophe. If you don't, then you need the version without the apostrophe. Okay, so that little flowchart can often direct you to the correct version of that word. So we have here 4 sentences. Let's put this all together. Again, you can pause as if you want to and have a go at filling the gap in if you want. And then what we'll do is we'll go through the correct one that you needed to make these grammatically correct. Alright, so it's a sunny day today. What we really mean is it is a sunny day today, so we will need the apostrophe. The ocean was rough, its waves were out of control. So again, this is to do with subject-object. The waves are the object of the sentence, and the subject is the ocean. Those waves obviously belong to the ocean, and therefore when we say its waves, we're again referring to the subject, which is the ocean. The cat licked its tail. Again, the tail is the object of the sentence, the cat is the subject, so the tail belongs to the cat, and therefore it refers to the cat. So we need its because it's the same as the subject, the cat. And finally, it has been a long time. It's been a long time. So we need the one with the apostrophe there. So just to remind you then, in summary, small inaccuracies can cost you marks. They might not be a lot of marks, but it's always important to be as accurate as you possible. This is why it's important to proofread your question 5 responses, because they will be taken into account spelling, punctuation, and grammar. So you need to ask yourself if you have used its or its, that you are using the right one. And having this little flowchart in your head is useful. Do I want to say it is? Do I want to say it has? Or not? And that will determine whether you use the one with the apostrophe or the one without the apostrophe.